The envelope arrived on a Tuesday, addressed to Francisco Reyes, with my name nowhere to be found. I stood in our marble foyer, holding what I would later discover was the deed to a $3 million vacation home in the Hamptons. A house I'd never seen. A house bought with money that was technically mine. My name is Mia, and I've been married to Francisco for 15 years. 15 years of being the perfect wife, the devoted mother, the woman who stands smiling beside him at charity galas while he accepts credit for building an empire. What no one knows, not even Francisco, is that I built it first. "Mia!" Francisco's voice boomed from the dining room. "Where's dinner? Virginia and Mother are already here." I slipped the envelope into my purse and walked toward the sound of clinking crystal and my sister-in-law's shrill laughter. The dining room gleamed under the chandelier I'd picked out, but Francisco had claimed credit for choosing. Virginia sat at the mahogany table, her Botoxed face animated as she gestured with her wine glass. "There she is," Virginia said, not bothering to look up. "Francisco was just telling us about the Morrison deal. $20 million in profit this quarter alone. Congratulations," I said, taking my seat at the far end of the table. The seat Francisco had designated as mine years ago, far enough from the real conversation. Joanna, Francisco's mother, gave me her usual once-over. "That dress is interesting, dear. Very suburban." I smoothed my black sheath dress, the one that cost more than most people's monthly salary. "Thank you." Francisco leaned back in his chair, his chest puffed with pride. "The Morrison project is just the beginning. I'm expanding the portfolio, diversifying into luxury vacation properties." My fork paused halfway to my mouth. "Vacation properties?" "High-end retreats for discerning clients," he said, waving his hand dismissively. "Nothing you'd understand, sweetheart. It's complicated business stuff." Virginia laughed. "Leave the thinking to the men, Mia. You've got your hands full with— What is it you do again?" "I raise our daughter." "Right. The nanny work." Virginia's smile was razor-sharp. "How fulfilling." Freya chose that moment to slouch into the dining room, earbuds in, completely ignoring everyone. At 15, she'd perfected the art of being physically present, but emotionally absent. "Freya, sit up straight," Francisco snapped, "and take those things out of your ears." She rolled her eyes but complied, slumping into her chair with theatrical resignation. "Your father was just telling us about his new business ventures," Joanna said to Freya. "Perhaps you'll inherit his entrepreneurial spirit." "Unlike some people," Virginia added, glancing at me, I'd heard variations of this conversation 1,000 times. The subtle digs, the casual dismissals, the way they spoke about me like I wasn't sitting right there. But tonight felt different. Tonight I had an envelope in my purse that changed everything. "Actually," I said, setting down my fork, "I've been thinking about getting more involved in the business side of things." The table went quiet. Francisco's eyebrows shot up. "Involved how?" he asked, his tone carefully neutral. "Well, I do have some experience with investments. My grandmother left me quite a bit when she passed." Virginia snorted. "What? Like a few $1,000s? That's sweet, Mia. But Francisco's deals are in the millions." "Try 50 million, I said quietly. The silence stretched like a taut wire. Francisco's face went pale, then red. "What are you talking about?" he asked. "My inheritance. The one I used to help fund your first development project. The one that launched your entire career." Francisco's laugh was forced, brittle. "Honey, you're confused. Your grandmother left you some jewelry in a small savings account. Remember? We used it for Freya's nursery." "No, Francisco. That was the interest from 1 month. The principal has been sitting in a blind trust for 15 years, generating the capital that built your empire." Joanna's wine glass hit the table with a sharp clink. Virginia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "That's impossible," Francisco said, but his voice wavered. I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope. "This came today. A deed to a house in the Hamptons. Purchased with funds from the Morrison deal. The same deal you just bragged about making $20 million on. I looked directly at him. The same deal funded by my trust. Francisco's face went white. Mia, we need to talk. Privately. Actually, I said, standing up, I think we've talked enough. As I walked toward the door, I heard Virginia hiss to Joanna. Did you know about this? I didn't wait for the answer. I had phone calls to make. I spent the next morning in Francisco's home office, going through files he thought I'd never touch. The Hamptons house deed was just the beginning. Buried in his filing cabinet, behind tax documents and business contracts, I found a folder marked Sutton Properties, Sophia Sutton, real estate agent. 29 years old according to her business card stapled to several invoices. Invoices for interior design consultations, furniture purchases, and something called property management services that totaled $47,000 over 6 months. The front door slammed. Francisco's voice carried up the stairs. Mia, where are you? I quickly photographed the documents with my phone and shoved everything back into place. By the time he reached the office, I was sitting in his leather chair, spinning slowly. What are you doing in here? He demanded. Looking at our finances. You know, like a partner would. His jaw tightened. Get out of my chair. Our chair. Bought with our money. I didn't move. Tell me about Sophia Sutton. The color drained from his face. Who? The real estate agent who's been billing us for property management services. Unless you count what she's managing in the Hamptons house. You're being ridiculous. Am I? I held up my phone, showing him the photo of the invoice. $47,000, Francisco. For what exactly? He lunged forward and grabbed for my phone, but I was faster. I stood up, backing toward the door. Give me that. No. Mia, you're being paranoid. Sophia is a business associate. Nothing more. A business associate who needs $47,000 in management fees for a house you bought in secret? It's not secret. It's business. I don't have to run every investment decision by you. When it's my money, you do. He stepped closer, his voice dropping to that dangerous whisper he used when he wanted to intimidate me. Your money? You're my wife. We don't have separate money. Actually, we do. The trust is in my name only. Has been for 15 years. That's impossible. I would have known. You would have known if you'd ever bothered to read the documents I asked you to sign. But you were too busy being the big shot to pay attention to the fine print. Francisco's face went from pale to red to purple. You're lying. Call Edwin Howard. He's the trust administrator. He'll confirm everything. Who the hell is Edwin Howard? My lawyer. The one who's been managing my inheritance while you've been playing house with Sophia. Francisco grabbed my wrist. Stop this nonsense right now. Let go of me. Not until you tell me what game you're playing. I yanked my arm free. I'm not playing anything. I'm just finally paying attention. He followed me out of the office and down the stairs. Mia, listen to me. You're being emotional. Women always get emotional about money. Women? Really? You know what I mean. You're not thinking clearly. I stopped at the bottom of the stairs and turned to face him. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years. Clear enough to know that the down payment for your Hamptons love nest came directly from my trust. Clear enough to know that Sophia Sutton has been very well compensated for her services. There is nothing going on with Sophia. Then why didn't you tell me about the house? Because I knew you'd react like this. You'd get jealous and paranoid and ruin everything. Ruin what exactly? Francisco ran his hands through his hair. It's a business investment, a retreat for high-end clients. Sophia is helping me furnish it appropriately. For $47,000? Quality costs money. My money. Our money. No, Francisco, my money. And I want to see exactly how it's being spent. I walked toward the kitchen, pulling out my phone. Francisco followed, his voice getting higher and more desperate. Who are you calling? Luna. I need to talk to someone who won't gaslight me. Don't call Luna. She'll just fill your head with feminist nonsense. I hit Luna's number. She answered on the second ring. Mia? What's wrong? Can you meet me for coffee? I need to tell you something important. Of course. The usual place? Actually, make it somewhere private. Your house? I'll be there in 20 minutes. Francisco was pacing behind me like a caged animal. Mia, don't do this. Don't involve outsiders in our marriage. Luna isn't an outsider. She's my oldest friend. She's poison. She's been trying to turn you against me for years. I grabbed my purse and keys. Maybe she was just trying to help me see clearly. Where are you going? To talk to someone who actually listens to me. Mia, wait. His voice cracked. We can work this out. Just don't do anything stupid. I paused at the door. Stupid like trusting my husband with $50 million? Or stupid like pretending I don't know about his mistress? She's not my mistress. Then prove it. Show me the house. Introduce me to Sophia. Let me see exactly what my money bought. Francisco's mouth opened and closed. No words came out. That's what I thought, I said, and walked out the door. Luna's kitchen smelled like vanilla candles and fresh coffee. She set a mug in front of me and sat down, her dark eyes studying my face. You look like hell, she said. Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear. What happened? And don't say nothing. I've known you since we were 12. I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos of the invoices. Francisco bought a house, with my money, for his girlfriend. Luna's eyebrows shot up. Your money? Remember my grandmother? The one who died right before I got married? The ice queen who hated Francisco? She left me $50 million, Luna. $50 million. I put it in a blind trust to help Francisco start his business. Luna's coffee mug hit the table with a clink. $50 million? Mia? Why didn't you ever tell me? Because I was young and stupid and in love. I thought we were building something together. And now I find out he's been using my money to buy love nests for 29-year-old real estate agents. Luna leaned back in her chair. Holy shit. Yeah. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Edwin Howard, trust administrator. I'd called him from the car. Mr. Howard? Mrs. Reyes, I've reviewed your request. The withdrawal clause is indeed active, but I must warn you. Can you hold on 1 second? I looked at Luna. I need to take this. She nodded and pointed toward her living room. I walked away from the kitchen. Sorry, Mr. Howard. You were saying? The withdrawal clause allows you to reclaim your principal investment, but it requires 30 days' notice to all affected parties. Your husband's business would need to liquidate significant assets to repay the trust. How significant? Based on current market values, approximately 80% of his portfolio. The company would likely collapse. My heart pounded. And if I don't activate the clause? The trust continues as is. Your husband maintains control of the investments. But it's still my money? Legally, yes. Practically, he has operational control as long as the trust remains active. I need to think about this. Of course. But Mrs. Reyes, if you're going to activate the clause, don't wait too long. These things have a way of becoming complicated. I hung up and walked back to Luna, who was pretending not to eavesdrop. Complicated how? She asked. You heard that? Your voice carries when you're stressed. What did he mean? I sat down heavily. I can pull my money out. All of it. But it would destroy Francisco's business. Good. Luna. What? He's been lying to you for months, maybe years. He's cheating on you with money that's rightfully yours. Destroy him. It's not that simple. Freya? We'll be fine. She's 15, not 5. And she'll be better off without watching her father treat her mother like garbage. The front door opened and closed. Freya's voice called out, "Mom, your car's in Luna's driveway." "In here, honey." Freya appeared in the kitchen doorway, still in her school uniform. "Why aren't you at home?" "Your father and I had a disagreement." "About what?" Luna and I exchanged glances. Freya was smart. Too smart to lie to. "About money," I said carefully. "His money or your money?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" Freya shrugged. "I'm not stupid, Mom. I hear things. Dad always talks about his business and his success. But Grandma Virginia is always making comments about how you don't contribute anything. It doesn't add up." "What doesn't add up?" "If you really don't contribute anything, why does Dad get so weird whenever you ask about finances? And why do you never spend money on yourself but he buys whatever he wants?" Luna smiled. "Smart kid." "The smartest," I agreed. "Freya, what would you say if I told you that I actually do contribute to Dad's business?" "A lot?" "I'd say it's about time you got some credit." "And if getting that credit meant big changes for our family?" Freya sat down at the table. "What kind of changes?" "I don't know yet, but things might get difficult for a while." "More difficult than watching Dad treat you like his personal assistant?" Luna laughed. "Definitely your daughter." "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you love Dad?" The question hit me like a physical blow. I opened my mouth, then closed it. "I love the man I married," I said finally. "I'm not sure I know the man I'm married to now." Freya nodded like this made perfect sense. "Then maybe it's time to find out who you are without him." "When did you get so wise?" "I've been watching you disappear a little more every year." "I don't want to end up like that." "Like what?" "Small, invisible, always apologizing for taking up space." Luna reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Make the call, Mia." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. She was watching me with Francisco's dark eyes, but none of his cruelty. She was waiting to see what I would choose. I picked up my phone and dialed Edwin Howard's number. "Mr. Howard? It's Mia Reyes. I want to activate the withdrawal clause." "Are you certain?" "Completely certain." "Very well. I'll prepare the documentation. 30 days from today, the trust will demand full repayment of principal plus accrued interest." "How much total?" "Approximately $78 million. Freya's eyes widened. Luna grinned. "Send the papers," I said. The next 2 weeks passed like a chess game. Francisco acted like nothing had happened, but I caught him making hushed phone calls and staying late at the office. Meanwhile, I started planting seeds. "Freya, come here for a minute," I called from the kitchen one morning. She wandered in, still half asleep, grabbing a piece of toast. "I want to talk to you about something important. If this is about sex, I already know everything. It's about relationships, how to spot when someone doesn't respect you." She paused mid-bite. "Okay. If a guy ever makes you feel like you're not smart enough to understand his decisions, what should you do?" "Leave?" "Exactly. And if he controls your money, even money that's rightfully yours, leave faster. Good girl. Remember that, okay? No matter how much someone says they love you, if they don't treat you as an equal, they don't actually love you." Freya studied my face. "This is about Dad, isn't it? This is about you never settling for less than you deserve." That afternoon, I had lunch with Kent, Francisco's lawyer. He'd been handling our family's legal matters for years, completely unaware of the trust's existence. "Mia, what a pleasant surprise," he said, standing as I approached his table. "Francisco didn't mention you'd be joining us." "Francisco doesn't know I'm here." Kent's smile faltered slightly. "Oh, is everything all right? I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Of course. Has Francisco mentioned anything about restructuring our marital assets?" Kent's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "What kind of restructuring?" The kind that would limit my access to our finances. Mia, I think you should discuss this with Francisco directly. So he has mentioned it. Kent set down his fork. He's asked me to research some options, but nothing's been filed. It was just preliminary research. What kind of options? I really can't. Kent, I've known you for 8 years. You've been to our house for Christmas dinner. Please, he sighed. He asked about converting joint assets to separate property and about establishing a more structured allowance system. My stomach dropped. An allowance system? He was concerned about some recent spending patterns. What spending patterns? I barely spend anything. I don't know the details, Mia, but he seemed to think you might be planning something financially irresponsible. I laughed, but it came out bitter. Financially irresponsible. That's rich. Is there something I should know? Just that Francisco might not be the financial genius he pretends to be. That evening, Francisco's business partner Rick called me directly. We'd never spoken one-on-one before. Mia, it's Rick. I hope you don't mind me calling. Not at all. What's up? I wanted to ask you about something, but I wasn't sure if I should go through Francisco first. What kind of something? There have been some unusual fund transfers lately. Large amounts moving in and out of accounts I don't have access to. My pulse quickened. What kind of amounts? 7 figures? And when I asked Francisco about it, he got defensive. Said it was personal business. Personal how? That's what I was hoping you could tell me. Are you two making some kind of major purchase? Investment property, maybe? I chose my words carefully. Francisco has been talking about diversifying. Into what? I'm not entirely sure. He doesn't always include me in the business discussions. That's odd. You're his wife? Rick, can I ask you something? Sure. If you found out Francisco was making major financial decisions without consulting his partners, what would you do? There was a long pause. I'd want to know where the money was coming from and where it was going. And if you didn't like the answers, I'd protect my investment, whatever it took. After I hung up, I called Luna. How's Operation Destroy Francisco going? She asked by way of greeting. Slower than I'd like, but I think I'm getting some allies. Allies? Rick is suspicious about the money transfers. Kent knows Francisco is trying to cut me out financially. Even Freya is starting to see through his act. What about the trust paperwork? Edwin says it'll be ready next week. Once Francisco gets served, he'll have 30 days to come up with $78 million. Can he do it? Not without liquidating everything. The business, the house, probably his precious Hampton's love nest. Good. What about Sophia? What about her? Have you confronted her yet? No. Why would I? Because she's probably just as much a victim as you are. Francisco's been lying to both of you. I hadn't considered that. You think she doesn't know he's married? I think Francisco is exactly the type of man who would tell his mistress that his wife doesn't understand him and they're getting divorced. Shit. Find her, Mia. Talk to her. You might be surprised what you learn. That night, Francisco came home late again. I was waiting in the living room. We need to talk, I said. Not tonight, Mia. I'm exhausted. It's about the house. He froze. What house? The one in the Hamptons. The one you bought for Sophia. I told you, it's a business investment. Then take me to see it. What? This weekend. Take me to see our investment property. Francisco's face went pale. It's not ready for visitors yet. It's been ready enough for Sophia. There's nothing going on with Sophia. Then prove it. Take me to the house. Francisco stared at me for a long moment. Then he turned and walked upstairs without another word. I smiled in the darkness. The trap was set. The legal papers arrived on a Thursday morning while Francisco was in the shower. I signed for them, my hands shaking as I read the header. Petition for modification of marital property rights. He was actually doing it. trying to cut me out of my own money. I was still holding the papers when he came downstairs, adjusting his tie. "What's that?" he asked, grabbing his coffee. "Your attempt to steal my inheritance." The coffee mug slipped from his hands, shattering on the marble floor. "Mia, I can explain. You're trying to convert our joint assets to separate property. You want to put me on a $5,000 monthly allowance. For my own money. It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Francisco?" He knelt down, picking up pieces of broken ceramic. "You've been acting erratically, making threats. I need to protect our family's financial stability." "By stealing from me?" "By preventing you from making emotional decisions that could ruin us," I laughed. "Ruin us? Francisco, I am us. Without my money, you'd still be selling insurance in Queens." "That's not true." "Prove it. Show me one deal you've made without my capital backing it." Francisco stood up, his face red. "I built this empire with my own hands." "You built it with my grandmother's money, and now you're trying to steal it." "I'm trying to save it." "From what?" "From you." The words hung in the air between us. Francisco's eyes widened, realizing what he'd just said. "There it is," I said quietly. "The truth. Mia, I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did. You think I'm the problem. You think I'm going to destroy everything you've built with my money." "Our money." "No, Francisco. My money. And you're about to find out just how much of it there really is." That afternoon, I drove to Francisco's office building. I'd never been there unannounced before, but today felt like a day for firsts. The receptionist looked surprised to see me. "Mrs. Reyes. Mr. Reyes isn't expecting you, is he?" "No, but I'm sure he'll make time for his wife." She buzzed his office. I could hear Francisco's voice through the intercom, sharp and irritated. "Send her up," he said finally. The elevator ride to the 20th floor felt like an eternity. When the doors opened, Francisco was waiting, his face a mask of forced calm. "Mia, what a surprise. We need to talk. Privately." He led me to his office, closing the door behind us. Through the glass walls, I could see his employees pretending not to stare. "What's so urgent that you had to come here?" I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo. "This is Sophia Sutton, 29 years old, real estate agent. Your girlfriend." Francisco's jaw tightened. "She's not my girlfriend." "Then why is she at your business party?" The photo showed Sophia at last week's company mixer, her hand on Francisco's arm, both of them laughing. I'd taken it from across the room. "She's a business associate. Business associates don't usually wear your wife's jewelry." Francisco looked closer at the photo. Sophia was wearing diamond earrings. Earrings that looked exactly like the ones from my jewelry box. The ones Francisco had given me for our 10th anniversary. "Those aren't yours. They're identical to mine. Interesting coincidence." "You're being paranoid." "Am I? Let's call her and ask." I started dialing Sophia's number from her business card. Francisco lunged for my phone. "Don't." "Why not?" "If there's nothing going on, she won't mind talking to your wife." "Mia, stop this." "Hello, Sophia. This is Mia Reyes, Francisco's wife." Francisco's face went white. On the other end of the line, there was complete silence. "Sophia? Are you there?" Yes. Hi. I was wondering if we could meet for coffee. I'd love to hear about the Hamptons house you've been helping Francisco with." Another long pause. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." "Has there?" "Because my husband tells me you're just a business associate, but the invoices suggest otherwise." "Mrs. Reyes, I think you should talk to Francisco about this." "I'm talking to you. Did you know he's married when you started sleeping with him?" Francisco was making frantic gestures, trying to get me to hang up. He said you were separated." There it was. The truth Luna had predicted. "Separated? We live in the same house. We had dinner together last night. He told me you were getting divorced. that you'd already agreed to split assets. Sophia, I hate to break it to you, but Francisco lies. About everything, including the source of his money. What do you mean? I mean the house he bought you? The jewelry he gave you? The business he's so proud of? It's all built on my inheritance. Francisco doesn't have any money of his own. Francisco grabbed for the phone again. This time I let him have it. Sophia, don't listen to her. She's having some kind of breakdown. I could hear Sophia's voice through the speaker, high and upset. Is it true? Are you still married? It's complicated. Are you getting divorced or not? We're working through some issues. You lied to me. Sophia, please. The line went dead. Francisco stared at the phone, then at me. Happy now? He asked. Getting there. My phone buzzed. A text from Edwin. Papers ready. Courier will deliver tomorrow at 6 p.m. I smiled. Actually, Francisco, I'm about to be very happy. The annual Reyes Foundation Gala was Francisco's favorite night of the year. 200 of the city's elite gathered to celebrate his philanthropic vision and business success. He'd been planning his speech for weeks, practicing in front of the bathroom mirror every morning. I chose my dress carefully. The red Valentino I'd bought but never worn because Francisco said it was too attention-grabbing. Tonight, I wanted all the attention I could get. You look beautiful, Mom, Freya said, adjusting my necklace. She was staying home, claiming homework, but really just avoiding the family drama. Thank you, sweetheart. Remember what we talked about? If Dad tries to blame you for anything that happens tonight, I know the truth. Good girl. Francisco appeared in the doorway, resplendent in his custom tuxedo. Ready? More than ready. The ballroom at the Meridian Hotel sparkled with crystal chandeliers and white roses. Francisco worked the room like a politician, shaking hands and accepting congratulations on his latest development project. I smiled and nodded, playing the perfect wife one last time. Virginia cornered me by the bar, her face pinched with disapproval. That dress is very bold, she said. Thank you. It wasn't a compliment. You're drawing attention away from Francisco. Tonight is about him. Actually, Virginia, tonight is about the foundation, which exists because of my donation. Her eyes narrowed. Your donation? The seed money that started everything. Didn't Francisco mention where it came from? Before Virginia could respond, Joanna appeared at her elbow. Mia, dear, you look vibrant, she said, her tone suggesting this was not a good thing. Thank you, Joanna. You look exactly the same as always. The older woman's smile turned glacial. Francisco tells me you've been having some difficulties lately. Money troubles? No money troubles at all. In fact, I've never been more financially secure. That's good to hear. Francisco was worried you might do something rash. Like what? Oh, you know how emotional women can get about finances, making impulsive decisions without understanding the consequences. I sipped my champagne. What consequences would those be? Well, if you were to interfere with Francisco's business arrangements, it could affect everyone. The foundation, the employees, the family's reputation. Are you threatening me, Joanna? I'm simply pointing out that some actions can't be undone. You're absolutely right. Some actions can't be undone. Rick appeared beside us, looking nervous. Mia, can I speak with you privately? Of course. We stepped away from the Reyes women, who watched us with suspicious eyes. I need to tell you something, Rick said quietly, about the money transfers I mentioned. What about them? I did some digging. The funds aren't coming from our business accounts. Where are they coming from? That's what I can't figure out. Francisco has access to capital that doesn't show up in any of our partnership agreements. How much capital? Tens of millions. Maybe more. I nodded. Rick, what would you do if you found out Francisco had been lying about the source of his investments? I'd want my fair share. We're supposed to be equal partners. What if I told you that Francisco's entire empire was built on money that isn't his? Rick's eyes widened. What are you saying? I'm saying you might want to distance yourself from Francisco. Soon. Before Rick could respond, the lights dimmed. Francisco took the stage, microphone in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight to celebrate another successful year for the Reyes Foundation. Applause filled the room. I checked my watch. Siphoned for 5:58 p.m. When I started this foundation 15 years ago, I had a vision. A vision of using business success to give back to our community. More applause. Francisco was in his element, basking in the adoration. Tonight, I'm proud to announce our largest donation ever. $5 million to build a new children's wing at St. Mary's Hospital. The crowd erupted. Francisco raised his hands for quiet. This donation is possible because of the incredible growth of Reyes Development. We've built an empire based on hard work, smart investments, and... A hotel employee appeared at the edge of the stage, holding an envelope. Francisco frowned but continued speaking, and the vision to see opportunities where others see obstacles. The employee climbed the steps to the stage. Francisco tried to wave him away, but the man insisted, pressing the envelope into his hands. As I was saying, Francisco continued, setting the envelope aside, success comes to those who... Open it, someone called from the audience. Francisco laughed nervously. I'm sure it can wait. Open it. More voices joined in. Francisco's smile faltered. He picked up the envelope, his hands shaking slightly as he tore it open. I watched his face change as he read the first few lines. What does it say? Virginia called out. Francisco's voice cracked. It's a legal document. Read it aloud, someone shouted. Francisco cleared his throat, his face pale under the stage lights. Notice of trust withdrawal. The undersigned hereby demands immediate repayment of principal investment, plus accrued interest in the amount of $78 million. The ballroom went silent. Francisco looked up from the paper, his eyes finding mine in the crowd. The silent partner is cashing out, I called out, my voice carrying clearly in the stunned silence. You have 30 days to clear your desk. Francisco's mouth opened and closed like a fish. The microphone picked up his whispered words. Mia, what have you done? I've taken back what was always mine. The room erupted in chaos. Guests turned to each other, whispering frantically. Virginia pushed through the crowd toward me, her face twisted with rage. You bitch! You've ruined everything! No, Virginia. I've just stopped pretending. The next morning, my phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Local news, business reporters, gossip bloggers. The story was everywhere. Real estate mogul's empire built on wife's secret fortune, and the silent partner speaks inside the Reyes Foundation scandal. Francisco hadn't come home. I found him in his office at 7 a.m., surrounded by papers and empty coffee cups, looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. The banks are calling, he said without looking up. All of them. I imagine they are. Kent says we can fight this. Claim the trust documents are invalid. We both know they're not. Francisco finally looked at me. His eyes were bloodshot, desperate. Mia, please, we can work this out. I'll give you whatever you want. I want my money back. You'll destroy everything. The business, the foundation, hundreds of jobs. You should have thought of that before you tried to steal from me. Kent burst through the office door, his usually perfect hair disheveled. Francisco, we have a problem. Rick is calling an emergency board meeting. When? Now. He's claiming breach of fiduciary duty. Francisco's face went white. He can't do that. He can if he believes you've been misrepresenting the company's financial position. My phone buzzed. A text from Rick. Thank you for the heads up. Time to clean house. What's Rick talking about? Francisco demanded, reading over my shoulder. I may have mentioned that your business partner deserves to know where his investments really came from. Kent looked confused. What investments? The ones Francisco made with my trust fund, without telling anyone it wasn't his money. Jesus Christ, Kent muttered. Francisco? Is this true? Francisco's silence was answer enough. You've been operating under false pretenses for 15 years, Kent continued. Rick could sue for fraud. The investors could sue. The IRS could. Enough! Francisco slammed his hand on the desk. Everyone just needs to calm down. Calm down? I laughed. Francisco, your empire is collapsing. There's nothing calm about this. My phone rang. Virginia's name flashed on the screen. Answer it, Francisco said. Tell her this is all a misunderstanding. I put the call on speaker. Hello, Virginia. You vindictive bitch. Do you have any idea what you've done? I've taken back my own money. Your money? You're a housewife. You don't have money. I have $50 million. Had. Now it's $78 million with interest. That's impossible. Ask your brother. Better yet, ask his accountant. Virginia's voice got higher, more hysterical. The whole family is ruined because of you. Joanna had to cancel her charity luncheon. I had to pull my kids out of private school. Maybe you should have been nicer to me. We treated you exactly as you deserved. You treated me like I was worthless. Turns out I'm worth more than all of you combined. I hung up. Francisco was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. You planned this, he said. All of it. I planned to take back what was mine. Everything else is just consequences. The office door opened again. Freya walked in, still in her school uniform. Dad? Mom? I saw the news. Francisco's face crumpled. Freya, sweetheart, this is all a big misunderstanding. Is it true? She asked. About Mom's money? It's complicated. It's not complicated, I said. I inherited money from my grandmother. I used it to help your father start his business. He's been pretending it was his money ever since. Freya looked at Francisco. You lied? I didn't lie. I just didn't explain everything. You told everyone Mom was useless, that she didn't contribute anything. I never said that. You said it to me. Last week. You said Mom was just a housewife who didn't understand business. Francisco's mouth opened and closed. Freya, Mom built your business. With her money. And you called her useless. It wasn't like that. Freya turned to me. Are you getting divorced? I don't know yet. Good. He doesn't deserve you. She walked out, leaving Francisco staring after her. Now you've turned my own daughter against me, he said. I didn't turn her against you. You did that yourself. My phone rang again. Edwin Howard. Mrs. Reyes? I'm calling about the media attention. What about it? Several news outlets are requesting interviews, and there's been an interesting development. What kind of development? 3 other women have contacted my office. They claim their husbands have been using similar tactics to control their inheritances. Francisco was listening, his face getting paler by the minute. They want to know if you'd be willing to speak publicly about your experience. I looked at Francisco, cowering behind his desk, surrounded by the wreckage of his lies. Set up the interviews, I said. Mia, no, Francisco whispered. Please. You had 15 years to treat me with respect, Francisco. Now the whole world gets to know what kind of man you really are. Francisco buried his face in his hands. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is waiting so long. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Francisco? You might want to call Sophia. I heard she's been telling people some very interesting stories about your relationship. His head snapped up. What stories? Ask her yourself, if she's still taking your calls. I left him there, broken and alone, exactly as he'd tried to leave me. The divorce papers were signed on a Tuesday morning in Kent's office. Francisco sat across from me, a shadow of the man who used to command boardrooms. His empire had crumbled exactly as predicted. assets liquidated, investors fled, the foundation dissolved. The house goes to Mia, Kent read from the settlement, along with $78 million in trust repayment, plus Francisco's remaining liquid assets totaling approximately $12 million. What about my business? Francisco asked weakly. What business? Kent replied. Rick bought out the remaining contracts for pennies on the dollar. You're essentially starting over. Francisco signed the papers without another word. As we left the building, he grabbed my arm. Mia, wait. I turned to face him. He looked older, defeated, but there was something else in his eyes. Maybe the first glimpse of actual remorse I'd seen in 15 years. I'm sorry, he said, for all of it. You deserved better. Yes, I did. Will you ever forgive me? I considered the question. I don't know, Francisco, but I'm not angry anymore, and that's enough. He nodded and walked away, shoulders slumped, toward a modest sedan that replaced his BMW. I watched him go, feeling nothing but relief. My phone buzzed. A text from Luna. Coffee? I want to hear everything. Can't. Meeting with the reporter from the Times in an hour. The story's really happening? It's happening. The interview took place at a quiet cafe downtown. Sarah Martinez, the journalist, was younger than I expected, with sharp eyes and a digital recorder. So you're really going public with this? She asked. I already went public. At the gala, remember? But this is different. This is your story, in your words. I sipped my coffee, thinking about the women who'd contacted Edwin's office. Women whose husbands had hidden their money, controlled their access to their own inheritances, made them feel small and powerless. My grandmother always said that silence protects the wrong people, I said finally. I stayed silent for 15 years. I'm done being silent. What do you want people to know? That financial abuse is real. That it happens to wealthy women, too. That sometimes the person stealing from you is sleeping in your bed. Sarah leaned forward. What would you say to women in similar situations? Document everything. Find allies. And remember that your money is your power. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Any regrets? I thought about Freya, who was now splitting her time between Francisco's tiny apartment and our house. She seemed happier, more confident, like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders, too. I regret waiting so long. I regret teaching my daughter that it was normal to be dismissed and belittled. But I don't regret fighting back. The article ran the following Sunday with the headline, The Silent Partner Speaks, How I Took Down My Husband's Empire. Within hours, it was trending on social media. My phone exploded with messages, some supportive, some vicious, all proving that I'd struck a nerve. Virginia called, predictably furious. You've humiliated the entire family. The family humiliated itself. Francisco is living in a studio apartment. He's working for Rick now, as an employee. Good. Maybe he'll learn some humility. You're heartless. I'm free. Joanna never called. I heard through Freya that she'd moved to Florida to live with her sister, claiming the scandal was too much for her delicate constitution. The best call came from an unexpected source. Sophia. Mrs. Reyes? It's Sophia Sutton. Hello, Sophia. I wanted to thank you and apologize. For what? For believing his lies. For not questioning why a successful businessman would need to hide his marriage from his business partner. You weren't the first woman he lied to. You won't be the last. Actually, I think I might be. Word gets around in our industry. Francisco's reputation is, well, it's not good. What are you going to do now? I'm starting my own agency. No more working for men who think they can manipulate me. Good for you. Mrs. Reyes, can I ask you something? Anything. How did you find the courage to do it? To blow up your whole life? I looked around my living room. The same furniture, the same art. But somehow everything felt different. Lighter. I realized that my life was already blown up. I was just living in the wreckage, pretending everything was fine. That evening, Freya and I sat on the couch, sharing a pizza and watching a movie. She'd been quieter since the divorce, processing everything that had happened. Mom? Yeah? I'm proud of you. Thank you, sweetheart. Dad called me today. He wants to have dinner this weekend. How do you feel about that? Nervous, but I think I want to try. He's still my dad, even if he's different now. He is different, smaller, but maybe that's not entirely bad. Do you think he'll ever understand what he did wrong? I don't know, but that's not our problem anymore. Freya curled up against my side. Are you happy, Mom? I thought about the question. Happy felt too simple for what I was experiencing. I was relieved, vindicated, free, but also lonely sometimes, and still processing the anger that had driven me for so long. I'm myself again, I said finally. For the first time in 15 years, I'm myself. I like this version of you better. Me too. My laptop sat open on the coffee table, cursor blinking in an empty document. I'd been thinking about writing my story, not for a newspaper or magazine, but for the women who might need to hear it. The ones still living in beautiful cages, still pretending their silence was protecting anyone but their abusers. I started typing, if you're reading this, you probably suspect that something in your marriage isn't right. Maybe your husband controls the money, even money that's rightfully yours. Maybe he makes you feel stupid for asking questions about finances. Maybe he's convinced you that you're lucky to have him, that you couldn't survive without him. I'm here to tell you that you're not crazy. You're not ungrateful, and you're not powerless. My name is Mia, and this is how I took my life back. The story poured out of me, all of it. The inheritance, the lies, the years of being made to feel small. The investigation, the planning, the moment I decided to stop being silent. But most importantly, I wrote about what came after. The freedom, yes, but also the responsibility that comes with reclaiming your power. The knowledge that revenge, even justified revenge, changes you forever. I ended with this. Karma isn't something that happens to you. It's something you create. But be warned. Once you start creating your own karma, you can never go back to being the person who accepted less than she deserved. The question is, are you ready to meet the woman you were always meant to be? I posted the story online and closed the laptop. Whatever happened next, I was ready for it. After all, I'd already survived the worst thing I could imagine. Losing myself. Everything else was just details.